You ever look in the mirror and think, I'm just average? You see all these flawless images, the men with the chiseled bodies, designer clothes, perfect lighting, and you start to believe that's what attraction is. But what if I told you something deeper? That attraction, real, lasting attraction, has very little to do with how you look and everything to do with how you move through the world. Because there's a kind of power that doesn't live in muscles or money. It lives in energy, in stillness, in how grounded you are when everything else is loud. You might not notice it yet, but there are signs, subtle, psychological signs, that you're far more attractive than you think. So today we're breaking that down, not as a pep talk, not as fake motivation, but as a man-to-man conversation about presence, energy, and quiet power. Let's get into it. 1. You make people nervous without trying. You ever notice how people sometimes act strange around you? They stumble on their words, laugh nervously, or avoid holding your gaze. You probably think, why are they acting weird? But it's not them being weird. It's your presence disrupting their comfort zone. See, calm confidence makes people aware of themselves. When you're centered and still, you unconsciously show people how reactive they are. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove a thing. Your control speaks for you. And that kind of calm energy, that quiet certainty is rare. It's unsettling. It's magnetic. Because most people live in reaction. You live in rhythm. That's the difference. 2. You carry mystery without forcing. Mystery isn't about being secretive. It's about being self-contained. You're not constantly explaining yourself. You're not oversharing every thought to get approval. You move with intention, not exposure. And that creates curiosity. People start wondering what's going on behind your eyes. They pay attention to your pauses, your tone, your silence. Because mystery feels like depth, and depth feels like strength. In a world that lives to broadcast everything, your ability to hold something back is rare. That restraint tells people, I'm not here to impress, I'm here to observe. And that's what draws them in, especially women. Because mystery gives them something to explore. You become a challenge, not a chase. 3. You don't compete, you lead quietly. Let's talk about leadership. True leadership isn't loud. It doesn't shout directions or flex status. It's quiet confidence. You don't compare your progress to anyone else. You're not trying to win attention or validation. You're focused on mastering your lane. And that kind of focus creates respect. People feel safer around a man who doesn't compete for attention. They feel calm in your energy because you're not playing games. You're building something real. Attractive men don't dominate others to prove they're strong. They lead with example, not ego. That's what women respond to on a subconscious level. The man who doesn't need to show control because he is control. 4. You're selective with your time and energy. Here's the truth. Your time is your currency. How you spend it defines your value. When you stop giving everyone unlimited access to you, your presence becomes premium. Attractive men aren't available 24/7, not because they're playing games, but because they're building empires. They protect their focus. They protect their peace. You don't waste hours on shallow conversations, gossip, or meaningless connections. You invest your time in things that grow you, mentally, physically, spiritually, and people feel that. When you walk into a room, you carry the energy of someone who's not distracted. You're intentional. You're disciplined. That's why when you do speak, people actually listen, because your presence has weight. 5. You're comfortable in silence. Most people run from silence. They need noise, entertainment, or constant validation to feel alive. But you've learned to sit with yourself. You don't fear solitude. You respect it. Because you've realized that silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. When you're alone, you reflect, you refine, you recharge. That's why you move differently in public. Your peace doesn't depend on company, and that independence, that ability to be alone without being lonely, is one of the most attractive qualities a man can have. Because the moment you stop needing attention, the world starts giving it to you. That's the paradox of power. When you stop chasing, everything starts moving toward you. 6. You communicate through presence, not performance. A lot of men think communication is about saying the right thing. It's not. It's about being the right energy. When you speak, people don't just hear words, they feel your conviction. You look them in the eye without flinching, not to dominate, but to connect. Your body language says, I'm here. I'm not performing. I'm present. And that presence carries more power than any clever line ever could. Because real confidence isn't about volume. It's about vibration. It's the quiet signal that says, I'm comfortable with who I am, and I don't need your permission to exist. 7. You've been misunderstood or judged for no reason. Let's get real. If you've ever been judged, envied, or disliked without doing anything wrong, take it as confirmation. People project their insecurities onto what they can't understand. Your calmness reminds them of their chaos. Your self-control exposes their lack of it. Your stillness mirrors everything they're running from. So they label you cold, distant, arrogant, anything to make sense of what they feel. But don't shrink to fit their comfort. Don't lower your frequency to be more relatable, because some people aren't meant to understand you. They're meant to feel you. Being misunderstood isn't a curse. It's proof that you've evolved beyond ordinary patterns. 8. You're grounded in purpose, not emotion. You're not calm because you don't care. You're calm because you've chosen clarity over chaos. You know what matters. You know where you're going. Your focus isn't scattered by temporary emotions. While most people chase feelings, you chase direction. That's what makes you stable. That's what makes you trustworthy. Purpose is the backbone of masculine energy. It gives you presence, depth, and identity. When you're living in alignment with purpose, your calm has meaning. Your silence has gravity. People can sense it, even if they can't explain it. 9. You have emotional discipline. Attractive men aren't emotionless. They just don't let emotion run the show. You can feel anger without reacting. You can feel pain without breaking. You can feel desire without losing focus. That's mastery. Emotional discipline is the foundation of respect, self-respect, and external respect. Because when you control your reactions, you control the outcome. That's why people test you. They want to see if your calm is real. And every time you pass that test, your energy becomes stronger. Your reputation becomes sharper. You stop chasing validation. You start embodying authority. 10. You radiate depth. Depth is felt, not explained. You've lived. You've lost. You've learned. And those experiences gave you perspective, not bitterness. That's what makes your energy magnetic. People feel the weight behind your silence. They sense that you've been through storms and didn't lose yourself in them. You're not impressed by surface-level things anymore. You crave meaning. You value peace. You move with purpose. And that level of depth separates men from boys. It's why people remember your energy even after you've left, because depth leaves a mark that looks like calm, but feels like power. 11. You're becoming the type of man others rely on. When things go wrong, people look to you, not because you shout orders, but because you don't panic. You bring stability when everything else falls apart. That's the kind of masculine energy that women trust and men respect. The man who doesn't react, he responds. Leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about being the calm center when the world starts spinning. You've become that for others and probably haven't even realized it yet. 12. You don't seek validation, you radiate it. In today's world, validation is a drug. Everyone wants to be seen, approved, applauded. But the calm man, he already knows who he is. His self-worth isn't up for negotiation. That's why when you speak, people listen. When you walk, people move aside. Not because you ask them to, but because your self-assurance rearranges energy. Validation chases you when you stop chasing it. 13. You value peace over popularity. You've learned that peace is priceless. You'd rather lose people than lose yourself. You'd rather walk alone than walk in noise. And that makes you rare, because peace is power, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't flex but still dominates. When you master peace, no one can use your emotions against you. No argument, rejection, or silence can shake you, because you've built a home inside yourself, and that makes you untouchable. 14. You don't pretend, you just are. You've stopped trying to look confident. Now, you simply are. Confidence isn't an act anymore, it's your baseline. You move with certainty. You speak with intention. You carry yourself like a man who knows his worth without needing to declare it. That's real attraction. That's real strength. Because authenticity, in a world full of filters, is the ultimate luxury. 15. You are becoming the calm in the chaos. Every test life throws at you, every rejection, every misunderstanding, every setback has been shaping your energy. You're learning to stand still when others collapse, to breathe when others break, to move with purpose when others react. And that evolution, that emotional refinement is what makes you magnetic. Attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about being solid when the world shakes. So the next time you look in the mirror, don't see average. See the man who doesn't need to perform. The man who commands respect without chasing it. The man whose calm speaks louder than words ever could. You've been attractive all along. You just needed to see it. Stay grounded. Stay calm. Lead in silence. Because in a world that can't stop shouting, the man who moves in stillness commands everything.